A quote graphic. It's a warning he needed on the mornings his own mind wanted the blanket more than the day. Mental strength isn't built in a crisis. It's not the movie moment where everything collapses and a character stands up in slow motion while the music swells. That's fiction, and it's a comforting one because it lets people off the hook for the boring part. The real thing gets built at 5:12 a.m. alone, with nothing at stake but your own opinion of yourself. That's the actual battlefield. Almost nobody trains there on purpose. Most people treat the morning like a hallway they walk through to get to the real day. The people who separate themselves from everyone else treat it as the whole game, played before anyone else is even awake to notice. There's a practical reason the morning carries this much weight beyond the symbolism. Your willpower and self-control run on a limited daily supply. And that supply gets spent down by every decision, every interruption, every small frustration you absorb across the day. By evening, most people are running on fumes, which is exactly why late-night decisions, what to eat, what to say in an argument, whether to give up on something, tend to be the worst ones anyone makes. The morning is the one window where that tank is still full. Waste it on chaos and indecision, and you're trying to build discipline later in the day with whatever's left over. Win it, and everything after inherits the strength you built first. So here's what you're getting. 7 pieces pulled from Stoic philosophy and built to survive contact with an actual alarm clock, not a wellness poster. Wake, silence, thought, judgment, control, discomfort, close. Each one leans on the one before it. Pull a piece out and the rest gets shaky. Before we go, 3 quick things. Like the video, it tells this channel to keep making things worth your 15 minutes instead of wasting them. Drop a comment, 1 word is plenty. You'll know which word by the end of this section. And subscribe, because this channel is built for people who are finished arguing with their own alarm clock. Last thing, and it actually matters, don't skip ahead. Each part sets up the next one, and skipping breaks the mechanism the whole system depends on. Nobody's coming to force you out of that bed. Nobody's coming to hold your hand through this. Good. That's exactly how it should be, because the version of you that shows up alone at 5 a.m. with no audience, that's the only version anyone can actually trust. Start where every disciplined life actually starts. Not a goal, not a vision board, the alarm. Number 1, wake up by discipline, not mood. People who build something real share one unglamorous habit. They don't wait to feel like it. Motivation is weather, not a foundation. Some mornings you're sharp. Some mornings you feel like a towel somebody wrung out and forgot about. Wait for the sharp feeling before your feet hit the floor, and you've handed your whole life over to your nervous system, which has never once cared about your deadlines. Zeno of Citium built Stoicism on one blunt idea. Virtue is a matter of will, trained through repetition, never a feeling that shows up on a schedule convenient to you. He didn't trust inspiration, he trusted rehearsal. Here's what's actually happening in your skull that first minute. Your prefrontal cortex, planning, judgment, delayed gratification, is still booting up, sluggish, half-formed. Your limbic system is already wide awake and screaming for 5 more minutes. It's not a fair fight, never has been. Negotiate with your mood in that window, and your mood wins because it had a 2-minute head start before your logic even walked into the room. So skip the negotiation. Don't ask, do I feel like getting up? Ask, what did I already decide last night? Make the call with a clear head, hours earlier, and let the groggy version of you simply carry it out. No courtroom at 5 a.m. Just execution of a decision already closed. That's the whole trick behind putting your phone across the room. It was never about the phone. It's about removing the option to lie there arguing with yourself while your logic is at its weakest point of the day. Feet hit the floor. The war's basically over. Standing changes your body faster than thinking ever will. Here's a way to make that first move automatic instead of something you have to think through half asleep. Pick one physical action, small and specific, and treat it as the trigger that ends the negotiation the second the alarm goes off. Not get up. That's too vague to act on at 5 a.m. Something concrete, both feet flat on the floor within 5 seconds, or sitting fully upright before your hand is even allowed near the snooze button. The specific action matters less than the fact that it's decided in advance and doesn't require a judgment call in the moment. Lay your clothes out the night before too, and put a glass of water where you'll see it first. None of this is about the water or the clothes. It's about stripping away every small decision point your groggy brain could use to talk you back into bed. One detail worth remembering: decisions made on low sleep, low blood sugar, or high emotion tend to be weaker and more short-term than decisions made in advance. I'll decide how I feel when I wake up. Sounds flexible. It's actually outsourcing a real decision to the weakest, foggiest version of yourself available. Discipline here isn't punishment, it's protection. For the version of you with goals and people counting on him, from the half-conscious version who only wants warmth. Every morning you pick discipline over mood. You're casting a small, unwitnessed vote for who you're actually trying to become. Win this fight in the first 60 seconds and the whole day owes you nothing. Lose it, and you're playing defense before you've even brushed your teeth. Make the call now. Feet on the floor, no negotiation. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I move first. Number 2. Win the first minutes in silence. Most people wake up and reach for a phone before their eyes finish adjusting. Notifications, headlines, someone else's opinion, someone else's emergency. All of it lands before that person has had one single original thought of their own. That's not a minor habit. That's handing the most valuable real estate of the day to strangers and an algorithm that's never once had your interests in mind. Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius that nothing damages a mind faster than constantly plugging it into other people's noise, because a mind that never sits with itself never learns to think on its own terms. He wasn't talking about phones. This was 2,000 years before anyone imagined a screen small enough to fit a palm. The warning still lands, almost too well. Silence in the morning isn't mystical, it's mechanical. 10 or 20 unclaimed minutes before any input arrives gives your brain a rare shot at settling into its own baseline instead of reacting to somebody else's agenda first. Athletes call it finding rhythm before the whistle. Soldiers call it situational awareness before the mission. The Stoics had a word for it too: prosoch, attention turned inward on purpose, before the day gets to yank it outward without asking. Doesn't need to be long either. A few minutes with coffee and genuinely nothing else can shift the tone of an entire day. Now put that next to the person who wakes up and immediately absorbs an internet argument, a stressful email, bad news from a time zone they've never visited, all before their own first conscious thought shows up. Whose morning is standing on steadier ground by 7 a.m.? If just sit in silence feels too open-ended to actually stick with, give the window a light shape instead of leaving it totally blank. Stretch for 2 minutes. Look out a window at something that isn't a screen. Write one line about what today needs from you, nothing more elaborate than that. The point isn't the specific activity. The point is that every one of those options keeps the input coming from inside you instead of from a server somewhere. Even a short, structured version of this beats an unstructured scroll every single time because it still protects the one thing that matters: your own first thought, arriving before anyone else's. There's a deeper cost buried in this, easy to miss until someone points it out. Every voice let in during those first minutes plants an agenda that was never yours. A headline plants anxiety about something you can't touch before breakfast. A message plants obligation before you've decided what today's even supposed to be about. By the time you sit down to your own actual work, you're not running your own priorities anymore. You're reacting to everyone else's all day without ever noticing the handoff happened. People who seem unshakable in a crisis usually guard this window like it's expensive, because it is. Not antisocial, just aware that a mind flooded with other people's static from minute 1 has almost no shot at original thought by minute 60, talent aside. Try it once. Leave the phone in the other room until the coffee's gone and you've had one unclaimed thought that belonged to you. Notice what changes when you, not a stack of notifications, get first pick of what matters. Guard those minutes like they cost something, because they do. That silence is the most expensive 15 minutes you own, and you're the only one who can spend it right. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is mine. Number 3. Control the first thought. The first thought after waking sets the weather for hours. Dread about a hard conversation, and your body braces for a fight that hasn't started yet. Leftover resentment from yesterday, and you're refighting something that already ended. Marcus Aurelius wrote, in that same private notebook, that you have power over your mind, not over outside events. And knowing this gives you a strength most people never bother claiming. Not comfort dressed up as philosophy. A mechanism, stated plainly. The event doesn't set your state. Your read on the event does, and a read on things is trainable. Most people assume the first thought just happens to them, like weather over a coastline. Half true. The very first flicker does arrive uninvited. That part's neurology, not choice, and fighting it wastes energy. But the second thought, the one deciding whether you follow the flicker into a spiral or steer it somewhere useful, that's where the actual choice sits. Almost nobody trains that second thought, ever. Think of it as a dial that tunes itself automatically based on habit and yesterday's stress level. You get a few seconds to decide whether to stay on that station or turn it. People who look calm under real pressure aren't people who never have a bad first thought. They've just turned that dial enough times that it happens almost without thinking now. One cheap trick works better than it should. Decide the night before specifically what tomorrow's first thought is going to be. Not good vibes only floating with no anchor. Something real. Today I finish the proposal. Today I stay level with my kid even when he pushes back at breakfast. Preload the thought and you starve the exact space where anxiety usually gets there first. For the mornings the negative thought slips through anyway, and some mornings it will, no matter how well you prepare. A short 3-step move helps more than trying to just force positivity over it. Name it, plainly, even in one word. Dread, anger, tired. Naming a feeling this specifically tends to loosen its grip almost immediately before you've done anything else about it. Then question it. Is this actually true right now, or is it just familiar? Then replace it with the sentence you decided on the night before. That's the whole sequence. Name, question, replace. And it works in under 30 seconds once you've run it a few times. Hijack your own first thought before randomness picks it for you, and you've drawn one of the quieter lines separating people who drift through their day half a step behind from people who walk into the morning already holding the wheel. Claim that first thought like it's territory, because it is. Nobody else gets a vote on what runs through your head at 5 a.m. Not your inbox. Not yesterday. Not the version of you that gave up last week. You decide, and you decide first. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose my first thought. Number 4. Use Stoic reflection to govern emotion. Emotion feels like it shows up from nowhere, fully formed. Anger flashes, anxiety creeps in sideways, sadness settles like weather. The Stoics made a claim about this that holds up shockingly well under modern scrutiny. Emotion isn't a raw, unfiltered reaction to the world. It's the output of a judgment, made so fast you never catch it happening. Chrysippus, who spent his career formalizing Stoic theory after Zeno's death, argued that a passion is really a mistaken judgment about what matters, held with more conviction than it deserves. Fear, in his framework, isn't caused by the danger itself. It's caused by the belief that the danger can't be survived. Shift the belief even slightly, and the emotion shifts with it, sometimes fast enough to surprise you. Two people can live through the identical event and walk away with two totally different emotional weather systems, purely based on the private verdict each of them hands down afterward. A cancelled flight ruins one person's week. It buys the other person an unplanned quiet afternoon. Same event, same facts, opposite verdicts. Mornings make good practice ground for this, mostly because nothing catastrophic has usually happened by 6 a.m. yet. Low stakes, high visibility. Ask yourself what judgment is sitting underneath whatever you're currently feeling. Accurate or just familiar? Useful or just a habit dressed up as truth? Worth saying directly, this isn't about switching emotion off. Plenty of people mistake Stoicism for flatness. It's closer to the opposite. You're not told to feel nothing. You're taught to check what you're privately telling yourself before the feeling gets loud enough to run the whole day without your permission. What am I assuming, and is it actually true, can diffuse a spiral before it picks up any real speed. The Stoics had a specific morning exercise for this, sometimes called negative visualization. Before the day starts, spend 30 seconds picturing something realistic that could go wrong. A delay, a difficult client, a piece of criticism, and picturing yourself handling it without falling apart. This isn't pessimism, and it isn't inviting bad luck in. It's rehearsal. By the time the actual setback shows up, if it shows up at all, some part of you has already walked through it once and knows it's survivable. People who skip this step tend to meet the first real problem of the day as if it's a personal insult. People who've rehearsed it tend to just deal with it and move on. People who get even a rough version of this down early tend to carry a strange steadiness into everything else. Not because nothing bothers them, because they've practiced separating the event from the story about the event, and that gap is where the actual control lives. Build that gap wide, and build it now, before life hands you a reason it actually matters. The day something big tries to knock you flat, this is the muscle that decides whether you go down with it or stay standing. Number 5. Focus only on what is under your control. Cato the Younger made a career out of infuriating people in the Roman Senate with a kind of stubborn calm nobody could rattle. Not because he ignored the chaos around him, he drew a hard line daily between what belonged to him and what didn't, and he defended that line without apologizing for it, no matter how loud the room got. This is the most repeated idea in Stoic philosophy, for one simple reason: it works, and almost nobody applies it with any real discipline. Every morning hands you a mixed bag. Some of it's yours: effort, attitude, honesty, the next hour's choices. Some of it never was: other people's opinions of you, traffic, the outcome of a decision already out of your hands, the market, a stranger's mood. Most people burn energy across both piles roughly equally without ever noticing the split, which means half their fuel for the day goes toward things they never had leverage over. Draw the line early instead and redirect anything on the wrong side of it before it eats your focus. Try this before you even leave the house. Split what's bothering you into 2 columns. 1. What can I actually act on? 2. What am I carrying for no reason? Column 2 usually runs longer than expected, and just seeing that gap on paper does something willpower alone rarely manages. Makes the noise visible enough to finally set down. To make the split less abstract, run a real morning through it. Say you're anxious about a meeting later, worried about a co-worker's opinion of you, and annoyed about traffic you haven't hit yet. Column 1 gets exactly 1 entry: how you prepare for the meeting and how you carry yourself in it. Everything else, the co-worker's opinion, the traffic, whether the client likes the pitch, belongs in column 2, because none of it is yours to decide, no matter how much energy you spend on it. Cross column 2 off the page entirely once you've written it down. You're not ignoring it. You're refusing to pay rent on space in your head that was never yours to begin with. This isn't resignation, and it isn't indifference. It's precision. Nobody's telling you to stop caring about outcomes. You're being told to stop spending finite energy pretending you have leverage over things that were never yours to move. Redirect that energy toward the column you actually control, and it compounds, a week, then a month, and the gap between someone scattering their attention and someone guarding it becomes visible to everyone around them. Guard that line like your whole future is standing behind it. It is. Every ounce of energy you claw back from things that were never yours goes straight into the one thing that actually moves your life forward, you. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I guard what's mine. Number 6. Train discomfort on purpose. Musonius Rufus pushed his students toward voluntary hardship, cold, hunger, hard physical effort, not for the taste of suffering, but because comfort left unchallenged quietly wears down the exact strength a person needs on the day it actually counts. A mind that never practices discomfort on its own terms folds fast the moment discomfort shows up uninvited. Take the cold shower cliché. Underneath the meme, there's something real. It was never about hygiene. It's about proving something small to yourself before the day gets a chance to test you with something bigger. Every nerve screaming to get out, and you stay another 30 seconds anyway. That 30 seconds isn't about the water, it's rehearsal. Discomfort tolerance isn't fixed. It trains like a muscle, and it seems to carry across contexts further than people expect. Someone who's practiced staying inside a rough physical moment on purpose tends to handle a hard conversation, a financial gut punch, or a public failure with more composure than someone who's never chosen difficulty voluntarily. The nervous system learns one lesson from repeated exposure. This is survivable, and it passes. That lesson doesn't stay in the shower. Picture 2 distance runners. One trains only in perfect conditions, ideal temperature, dry footing, plenty of rest, and falls apart the moment race day brings wind or a cramp nobody planned for. The other has logged miles in the rain, on tired legs, on mornings that felt genuinely miserable. Race day discomfort, when it comes, is familiar territory instead of a threat. The discomfort didn't shrink. The runner's relationship to it changed, because it got rehearsed long before it counted. A life engineered for constant ease, climate control everywhere, food in seconds, boredom solved the second it appears, isn't evil on its own. But zero friction produces a person who's never practiced tolerating friction. And the first time real friction lands uninvited, it hits like a shock nobody trained for. You don't need an extreme version of this to get the benefit. And it's worth starting smaller than you think. A cold shower for the last 30 seconds instead of the whole thing. A workout scheduled before you feel ready for it, not after you've talked yourself into feeling motivated. Waiting an extra 10 minutes before checking your phone when you're bored, instead of reaching for it, the second boredom shows up. If you're dealing with a heart condition or another health issue, check with a doctor before adding sudden cold exposure or intense exertion. The goal here is controlled, deliberate difficulty, not recklessness. Small and consistent beats extreme and abandoned after 4 days, every time. The morning's the one stretch of the day fully under your control, before obligations pile up. Cold water, a workout tackled before you feel ready, the task you've been avoiding handled first instead of last. Small, chosen difficulty, repeated without ceremony, builds exactly the capacity unchosen difficulty will demand later without asking permission. Nobody trains for the storm during the storm. You train now, alone, on purpose, so that when the real thing shows up uninvited, It finds someone who's already been through this before. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. Discomfort builds me. Number 7. End the morning with intention, not chaos. Cleanthes, who took over the Stoic school after Zeno died, closed each day with an honest review, checking whether his actions had matched what he claimed to stand for. The same discipline applies to how a morning ends, not just how a full day wraps. Most mornings don't end on purpose at all. They just dissolve into whatever the first meeting or the first email demands. A morning that ends deliberately has a clear final beat, a plan reviewed, one priority named, a single sentence about what today's version of winning looks like. A morning that just runs out, gets swallowed by whatever's loudest, and by 10 a.m., that person's already reacting to everyone else's agenda instead of running their own. This last piece is what turns 6 separate habits into one system. Woke by discipline instead of mood. Protected the silence before input flooded in. Chose the first thought on purpose. Checked the judgment underneath the emotion. Drew a hard line around what's actually yours. Trained a small dose of discomfort on purpose. Now, before the world gets its first claim on your attention, close the loop. Say out loud or write down exactly what winning looks like today. 60 seconds does it. One sentence. Today, winning looks like finishing the report and staying calm with my team, even if they push back. That's the whole exercise, but it works like a compass needle. Every time the day tries to pull you sideways, you've got something concrete to check yourself against, instead of drifting toward whatever's shouting loudest. If you want a slightly fuller version of this ritual, pair it with a 10-second glance backward before you look forward. Ask what yesterday actually taught you, one honest sentence before you set today's intention. Maybe yesterday showed you that you snapped at someone when you were tired, or that you handled a setback better than expected. Either way, carry that one lesson into the sentence you write for today. This turns the closing ritual into something that compounds morning over morning, instead of resetting to 0 every single day. Each morning inherits something real from the one before it. People who build this habit describe their days as less chaotic, even when the actual workload never changed. Not a coincidence. Chaos usually isn't about how much is happening. It's about how little direction someone had walking in. 7 fights, 7 wins. Close this one out, and you walk into the rest of your day already ahead of everyone who's still deciding how they feel. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I close my morning on purpose. Here's the part most people won't say out loud. Mental strength was never built in some cinematic breakthrough with music swelling behind it. It gets built in a bedroom before sunrise, through a sequence most people quit repeating after a few days. Discipline over mood, silence before noise. The first thought, claimed instead of left to chance. Judgment, checked before it turns into an emotion running the whole day. A hard line around what's actually yours. Discomfort chosen instead of dodged. A morning closed on purpose instead of left to dissolve into whatever's loudest. 7 pieces, 1 system. None of it requires talent. It requires repetition on the exact mornings nobody's watching, and nothing about it feels urgent. That's precisely why so few people ever build it, even though almost everyone says they want it. The 1% aren't smarter. They just keep showing up for a version of themselves that most people quietly abandon around week 2, once the novelty's gone and nobody's clapping. If you want the whole thing in one glance before you close this video, here it is. Decide your first move the night before, so there's nothing to negotiate at 5 a.m. Protect 15 unclaimed minutes before any screen gets a vote. Preload your first thought, so anxiety doesn't get there first. And if it slips through anyway, name it, question it, replace it. Run 30 seconds of negative visualization so nothing catches you off guard. Split your worries into what's yours and what isn't, and stop paying rent on the second column. Choose one piece of voluntary discomfort, small and consistent, over the version of comfort that leaves you untested. And close the loop with one sentence about what winning looks like today, built on one honest lesson from yesterday. 7 moves, maybe 15 minutes total, once it's a habit instead of an effort. Here's the part that should light a fire under you. Nobody is coming to save your mornings for you. No system, no app, no motivational video is going to reach through the screen and drag you out of bed. That job was always yours. It still is. And the second you stop waiting for permission to start acting like the person you say you want to become, this whole thing stops being theory and starts being your actual life. Don't try to run all 7 tomorrow. That plan fails by Wednesday. Pick one, run it for a week, imperfectly if you have to. Stack the next one on once the first one feels steady. That's how the armor actually gets built. Not overnight, one deliberate morning at a time, long after it stops feeling new, long after anyone's watching, long after it should have been easy to quit. This is the line. Most people will watch this, nod, and change nothing tomorrow morning. You don't have to be most people. You already know that, or you wouldn't have made it this far. So prove it. Not to me, not to the comments section, to yourself at 5 a.m. when nobody else is awake to see you do it. If this landed, hit like before you close the tab. Drop a comment with which of these 7 you're starting tomorrow. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And subscribe. This is exactly the work this channel is built around, one honest morning at a time.